Here's your latest African news. Africa-wide, new Kiswahili Science Fiction Award charts a path for African languages. The 6th edition of the Mabati Cornell Kiswahili Prize for African Literature, suspended last year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, is back. Founded in 2014, the prize recognizes writing in African languages and encourages translation from, between, and into African languages. Kiswahili is widely spoken across the east coast of Africa. The year's prize also offers a special award designed to promote and popularize a Kiswahili vocabulary for technology and digital rights. The shortlist will be announced in October and November 2021, with the winners announced in Dar es Salaam in December 2021. Ethiopia, another 5-year term for Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Another 5-year term for Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, as per results on Saturday of a landslide victory in a landmark and twice delayed parliamentary vote where the country's ruling Prosperity Party won 410 seats out of 436. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed hailed the outcome of what he described as a historic election. It is the first time he faced voters since being appointed Prime Minister in 2018, following several years of anti-government protests. The winner of the 2019 Nobel Prize had hoped to frame victory at the ballot box as a mandate for political and economic reforms as well as military operations. The vote was meant to affirm a promised democratic revival in Africa's second most populous nation, with Abiy vowing a clean break with repression that tarnished past electoral cycles. South Africa. Supporters demand Zuma's release via fiery protests in many South African cities. Roads blocked off, several trucks and commercial property have been set ablaze since Friday in KwaZulu-Natal, the home of former South African President Jacob Zuma, whose supporters have been on a fiery rampage and a looting spree in protest of his 15-month prison sentence. Zuma is serving time for defying a court order to testify before a state-backed inquiry probing allegations of corruption during his term as president from 2009 to 2018. Zuma turned himself over to police late on Wednesday night. Scores of Zuma supporters who gathered outside his home in Nkandla last weekend had threatened violence should the former president be sent to prison. More police officers have been deployed to affected areas around the country to monitor major highways, entrances, and search vehicles. Around 27 people have been arrested for their involvement in the violent demonstrations. Zuma supporters demand his release from the Escort Correctional Center. His own bid was rejected by a regional court on Friday, and he will try again for his freedom at the nation's apex court on Monday. Rwanda. Rwanda deploys 1,000 troops to Mozambique in SADC anti-jihadist mission. Rwanda has started deploying 1,000 strong forces to Mozambique to help it combat worsening violence in the gas-rich northern Cabo Delgado province. The announcement came on Friday after the 16-member Southern African Development Community, SADC, approved last month the deployment of joint forces to help Mozambique respond to the nearly 4-year-old conflict, which has killed some 3,000 people and displaced almost 800,000, half of whom are children. Uganda, once arrested for announcing Museveni's death. Police say they have arrested one man from Luiro district in central Uganda over offensive communication after he allegedly circulated falsified news that the President Museveni has passed on. The arrest comes after Mr. Museveni, 76, directed security forces to allocate very quickly and arrest those who had been spreading fake news about his death. The claims that had become vocal even after the president made several public appearances started circulating on the night of June 26 in the form of multimedia from anonymous sources on microblogging platforms, including the government-banned Facebook mobile application. Kenya. Research Miraa, marijuana benefits to human health, PS tells scientists. Education and Research Principal Secretary Simon has urged scientists to research Miraa and marijuana to establish their advantages and disadvantages to human health. The research will help Kenya find a market for the products internationally, he has said. Lack of scientific evidence on the advantages of the products, he said, had led to people to perceive them as illegal. Mr. Nnamdi spoke during the official opening of the second phase of the Pwani University Bioscience Research Center at Pwani University in Kilifi. He said anything perceived to be negative effects on the community might also have advantages for it. The PS said Somalia, Djibouti, and Eritrea are among the countries known to have a high consumption of Miraa and can provide Kenya with a good market. He said the issue of Miraa and marijuana use cannot be approached only politically, but also scientifically. Tanzania. Fire guts popular Tanzanian market. A fire brigade has managed to extinguish a burning fire at the Dar es Salaam's popular market, Kariakoo, that burnt for over 5 hours. Authorities said they will launch an investigation into its roots, but observers and eyewitnesses faulted the technology employment by the fire and rescue units, as well as the management of the market. Dar es Salaam Regional Commissioner Amos Makala visited the market and ordered the police forces to intensify security in the area. He stated that it has not been established the damage associated with the fire incident, but billions of shillings valued goods and their value chain have been compromised and affected. Nigeria. Nigeria stunned US basketball team in pre-Olympic friendly game. Nigeria have pulled off one of the greatest upsets in international basketball history by stunning the United States in an Olympic exhibition game in Las Vegas, 1987. On Saturday evening, Nigeria, with 6 NBA players and former NBA head coach Mike Brown at the helm, became the first African nation to beat the United States, who were playing the first of 5 tune-up games before the Tokyo Olympics. The landmark victory came 9 years after the US shellacked Nigeria 156-73 at the London Olympics, the US biggest blowout in Olympic men's basketball history. Africa-wide, free trade can help Africa beat the recession. Trading under the African Continental Free Trade Area finally kicked off on January the 1st, 2021 to a lot of excitement after being delayed for 6 months due to the pandemic. The overarching objective behind the free trade area is the elimination or reduction of tariff and non-tariff barriers against the 54 countries that agreed to be members of the bloc by providing a single market for goods, services, facilitated by movement of persons in order to deepen the economic integration and prosperity in Africa. The free trade area unites an estimated $3 billion market and could help to realize more than $84 billion in untapped intra-African exports, according to a report by the African Export-Import Bank. Countries now have to harmonize customs and tariff regimes, and this will greatly influence the country's economies and help us to beat a recession. East Africa. Rwandan enslaved descendants want recognition in Kenya. Rwandans whose parents came to Kenya to work as slaves for the British colonial government now want to be recognized as Kenya's 44th tribe. Statistics show that about 12,000 Rwandan nationals live in Kenya, spread across different towns. The third generation of Rwandan nationals who came to Kenya in the colonial days complain that they have suffered rejection from both the Kenyan and the Rwandan governments. They are hopeful that President Uhuru Kenyatta will decree that they be recognized as Kenyan citizens, as he did with the Makonde, who were originally from Mozambique. South Africa. South Africa deploys army to quell unrest linked to Zuma's jailing. South Africa deployed soldiers on Monday to quell violence that erupted following the jailing of President Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma, after days of riots left at least 6 people dead. Police said disturbances had intensified as Zuma challenged his 15-month prison term in the country's top court. The judgment in the case has been reserved. Smoke swirled from burning buildings as items from burgled shops lay strewn by the side of the road in Pietermaritzburg, in Zuma's home province of KwaZulu-Natal. The sporadic pro-Zuma protests that broke out when he handed himself over last week have escalated into looting and arson, mainly in KZN, but also in Gauteng, where the country's biggest city of Johannesburg is located. Gabon. Gabon becomes the first African country to receive payment for reducing CO2 emissions. Gabon is the first country in Africa to receive results-based payments for reduced emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. The first payment is part of the breakthrough agreement between Gabon and the multi-donor UN-hosted Central African Forest Initiative in 2019 for a total of $150 million over 10 years. The country's forest management approach is science-based and robust despite low historical rates of deforestation and forest degradation. Gabon has been able to reduce CO2 emissions even further. Gabon's forests house pristine wildlife and megafauna, including 60% of the remaining forest elephants, sometimes called the architects or gardeners of the forest, for their roles in maintaining healthy ecosystems, and recently listed as critically endangered. Ethiopia. Ethiopia signs military deal with Russia. Russia and Ethiopia on Monday signed a military cooperation agreement, according to media reports. The agreement came at the conclusion of 3 days of deliberations held as part of the Military Technical Cooperation Forum in the Ethiopian capital of Addis Ababa. Finance Division State Minister of the Ethiopian National Defense Force, Martha Liwij, said the agreements will have a paramount significance in transforming the long-standing relations between these two nations to a higher level. The agreement will be focusing on transforming capacity of the Ethiopian National Defense Force in knowledge, skills, and technology. Russia has long been one of Ethiopia's leading suppliers of military hardware. Djibouti. Djibouti to sell stake in state-owned telecom firm. Djibouti is the latest African country looking to open up its telecom sector to competition. Authorities in the Horn of Africa nation were on Monday reported to have said the government plans to offer a significant minority stake in the state-run telecoms monopoly, Djibouti Telecom. The move is said to be part of a plan to open up the sector, modernize Djibouti's economy, as well as increase digitalization in the country. Diaspora. Haitian police arrest assassination suspect with political aim. Haitian police announced on Sunday they had arrested a Haitian national who had political objectives in recruiting the gunmen who assassinated President Jovenel Moise last week. Christian Emmanuel Senon, 63, who was a Haitian national, arrived in the island nation in June, accompanied by several Colombians, according to details provided at a press conference. 18 Colombian citizens who have been arrested since Monday as well. By interrogating them, the Haitian police learned that Senon had recruited 26 team members via a Florida-based Venezuelan security company named CTU. According to Haitian authorities, the 28-member hit squad burst into Moise's family home and opened fire on him and his wife. The president was killed and his wife gravely injured. She was airlifted to a Miami hospital for treatment. Diaspora. Jamaica plans to seek reparations from Britain over slavery. Jamaica plans to ask Britain for compensation for the Atlantic slave trade in the former British colony, a senior government official has said, under a petition that could seek billions of pounds in reparations. Jamaica was a center of the slave trade, with the Spanish, then the British, forcibly transporting Africans to work on plantations of sugarcane, banana, and other crops that created fortunes for many of their owners. An estimated 600,000 Africans were shipped to toil in Jamaica, according to the National Library of Jamaica. Britain prohibited trade in slaves in its empire in 1807, but it did not formally abolish the practice of slavery until 1834. The reparations petition is based on a private motion by Jamaican lawmaker Mike Henry, who said it was worth some £7.6 billion, a sum he estimated is roughly equivalent in today's terms to what Britain paid to slaveholders. South Africa. African Union condemns the violence in South Africa. The African Union Commission has condemned the deadly violence currently occurring in South Africa following the incarceration of former President Jacob Zuma. The chairperson of the African Union AU Commission, Museveni Mahamat, in a statement called for an urgent restoration of order, peace and stability in the country in full respect of the rule of law, stressing that failure to do so can have grave impacts not only in the country but the region as a whole. Protests against the jailing of former President Zuma have in the last few days morphed into a surge of violence that has resulted in the deaths of civilians and appalling scenes of the looting of public and private property, destruction of infrastructure of various kinds, including the suspension of essential services in KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, and other parts of South Africa. Nigeria. Outrage as US pundit mocks names of Nigeria's basketball players after historic win over Team USA. American sports pundit Stephen A. Smith is being criticized for the mocking of the names of Nigeria's basketball players while he was speaking about the USA's loss to Nigeria in a friendly on Sunday. An exhibition game ahead of the Tokyo Olympic Games, Nigeria's senior basketball team, the Tigers, scored a historic win over the United States of America, which had basketball stars like Damian Lillard and Kevin Durant of the NBA. The team were praised by many people who said they had made Africa and Nigeria proud. But sports pundit Stephen Smith, in his popular talk show First Take, said that the United States had no excuse to lose to Nigeria. Some dude named Gabe Nnamdi, who goes by Gabe Vincent Caleb Ogada, however the hell you pronounce his name. Tanzania. Finding ways for humans, wildlife to coexist in the Serengeti. Tanzania's Serengeti district in the Miraa region is leading in the incidences of human and wildlife conflicts involving elephants, lions, and local communities, according to wildlife officials. The Tanzanian government is doing everything possible to find lasting solutions for the problem which exists in over 81 district councils across the country. Payouts to families affected by attacks by wild animals has been done in the past, but it's not a lasting solution to the real problem. Wildlife officials have stated the best solution is the establishment of a land use plan and controlling livestock from entering wildlife protected areas. Citizens are currently being educated and taught the necessary skills on how to apply simple techniques to prevent human and wildlife conflict, focusing on techniques that are cheap and have quick positive results, with the direction of making people live with wild animals without any harm on any of the two. Seychelles. 6 Sri Lankan vessels intercepted in the Seychelles waters for illegal fishing in the last 12 months. Seychelles is considering destroying Sri Lankan vessels illegally fishing in Seychelles waters in the future following a half-dozen incidents over the last year, authorities have confirmed on Tuesday. 6 vessels registered in Sri Lanka or with Sri Lankan crew were caught in Seychelles waters over the last year. Among the 6 vessels, 2 have already been convicted. 1 was released as there was insufficient evidence for prosecution, and 3 are currently still in court. For the court cases of the 3 vessels, one of the captains has been charged for illegal fishing, while investigation is ongoing for the others, and their crew are in remand. Based on information gathered by the different agencies, both local and even international, and from local fishermen, there is a strong possibility that more vessels are fishing illegally in the Seychelles waters. East Africa. Democratic Republic of Congo and Burundi link deal on trade and security. East African neighbors Burundi and the Democratic Republic of Congo have announced a joint plan to combat armed groups and foster economic growth. The presidents of both nations signed a series of agreements in Kinshasa on security and also infrastructure, with plans for a railway to connect the nation's major cities and even boost trade. No cost and deadline were made public today for the project, but a joint commission of experts who will oversee its progress was officially announced. Tuesday's visit to Kinshasa was the first made by Burundi's President Evariste Ndayishimiye since he took power a year ago, following the sudden death of his predecessor Pierre Nkurunziza. South Sudan. South Sudan's first local telecom launches operations. South Sudan President Salva Kiir on Monday launched the first ever locally owned mobile telecom operator. The digital network, the third telco in the country, is expected to fast-track connectivity of areas previously not served by foreign-owned telecom firms. In his remarks, President Kiir said his government is committed to bringing mobile services to remote areas. He noted that South Sudan needs to catch up with the rest of the world in terms of digital technology. This equipment will help increase digital literacy for programs for the next generation ICT-driven economy. The president noted that the launch of digital demonstrates the commitment of South Sudanese to develop their country, adding that since 2011, the government has been working hard to attract foreign investment. Diaspora. UK agonizes after racial abuse of African England football stars following Euro 2020 defeat. African players in the England team have been subjected to a storm of online racist abuse after their defeat in the finals of the Euro 2020. Marcus Rashford, 23, Jadon Sancho, 21, and Bukayo Saka, 19, were the targets of abuse after they missed spot kicks in a penalty shootout with Italy, which settled Sunday's final after the game finished as a all-one draw. The comments have prompted a police investigation and wide condemnation. Although critics accused some ministers of hypocrisy for refusing to support a high-profile anti-racist stance the players had made during the tournament. The England team had earned praise during the Euros, but once the team lost in the final, many of the so-called fans immediately turned toxic and racist towards the African England players. Funny thing, unfortunately, is that England has a multiracial team makeup made of mostly immigrants and only a few players who are originally English. Africa-wide, internet restrictions hold back Africa's economic growth, a study finds. A report by a non-profit group says Africa needs to increase its internet access to boost its economies, especially in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. The advocacy group found that while Africa's locally rooted online traffic has increased, only one in 5 Africans has internet access. High taxes and frequent internet shutdowns by some African governments have also discouraged online trade. The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa notes that only 20% of the continent's population has access to the internet. The Internet Society Group is urging African governments to expand internet infrastructure to rural areas where most of the population currently lives so that they can benefit from it. Nigeria. Nnamdi Kanu speaks from detention, reveals how he was arrested in Kenya. Mr. Kanu says he was held incommunicado and chained to a bare floor for 8 days in a nondescript private facility in Kenya. Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the pro-Biafra group IPOB, has spoken for the first time from detention since he was arrested in Kenya and brought back to Nigeria about 3 weeks ago to face a treason trial. He is detained in the facility of Nigeria's secret police, the SSS, in Abuja. Mr. Kanu's special counsel, Aloy Ejimako, was allowed to meet with the IPOB leader on Wednesday inside the detention facility, where he told him the people that abducted him said that they were told by the sponsors that Kanu was a Nigerian terrorist linked to the Islamic terrorists in Kenya, presumably Al-Shabaab. Mr. Aloy stated that the Nigerian government must have contracted a third party, probably outside the knowledge and involvement of the Kenyan government, for the interception of Mr. Kanu, going by the revelations of the IPOB leader. West Africa. French President Macron expands on Sahel drawdown plan. French President Emmanuel Macron announced yesterday that Operation Barkhane, the French counter-terrorism force fighting jihadis in the Sahel, will end in the first quarter of 2022. This follows a recent announcement that the French president plans to cut in half the French presence in the Sahel and reorganize what will remain as specialized regional forces, while also contributing to Task Force Takuba, the recently established EU force with a remit similar to that of Barkhane. The French mission to fight jihadism in the Sahel bears some resemblance, if not a lot, to the ongoing removal of American troops from Afghanistan. French political, economic, and especially cultural involvement in its former African possessions has been greater than that of the British, to the disdain of many Africans in the region. Nigeria. American sports personality apologizes to Nigerians for insensitive remarks. American sports personality Stephen Smith has apologized to the Nigerians over disrespectful comments he made about their basketball team members. Smith had made a mockery of the names of members of the D Tigers squad who pulled up a shocking win over the United States in the early hours of Sunday. Smith had come under intense criticism from Nigerians, including the diaspora, over his comments that he had made. The Nigeria Basketball Federation, NBBF, and a handful of D Tigers players had words for Smith after he shared the clip of his comment on Twitter. Somalia. Somalia's only female presidential candidate says it's time for women to take the lead. Lawmaker Fawzia Yusuf Haji Adam says it's time for a woman's touch, and on Tuesday announced her candidacy for president. But getting enough support from Somalia's lawmakers, the vast majority of whom are men, will be quite a challenge. Fawzia says she will bring a new lease on life to the country if elected by prioritizing security, economic empowerment, as well as education. Her male counterparts, she says, have failed previously to do so. Somalia's indirect election, scheduled for October, will see members of the parliament selected by clan delegates. Members of parliament then decide who will be the next president. Zimbabwe. Diamonds worth $140 vanish. Rough diamonds worth an estimated $140 million have disappeared from the supposedly impenetrable Minerals Marketing Corporation of Zimbabwe and Zimbabwe Consolidated Diamond Company. The diamonds weighed 350,000 carats. According to previous auctions, Zimbabwean diamonds normally fetch about $400 per carat, although this can rise to as much as $12,000 per carat. Auditor General Mildred Chiri, in her report for 2019, which was recently released, revealed that both the MMCZ and ZMDC cannot account for up to 350,000 carats of the diamonds, which were kept in their vaults. The matter has since been taken up by the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Mines and Mining Development, which, at a hearing on Monday, demanded answers. Ghana. Ghana signs a memorandum of understanding with the United States concerning strategic civil nuclear cooperation. The United States of America and the Republic of Ghana have signed a memorandum of understanding concerning strategic civil nuclear cooperation, which will improve cooperation on nuclear energy and strengthen diplomatic and economic relationships. The United States and Ghana have an enduring diplomatic relationship, which includes long-standing cooperation in the fields of security, energy, and even commerce. Cooperation in nuclear energy, science, and technology can lead to significant contributions to clean energy, agricultural improvements, clean water, advanced medical treatments, and so much more. Nuclear cooperation MOUs are a diplomatic mechanism that strengthens and expands strategic ties between the United States and a partner country by providing a framework for cooperation on civil nuclear issues and for engagement between experts from government, from industry, national labs, and academic institutions. Lesotho. Legendary musician Tshepo Thola dies. Stanley Letsela, director of Letsela Entertainment, has confirmed that legendary musician Tshepo Tsola died on Thursday after being admitted to hospital last week Friday. The 68-year-old died due to COVID-19 complications in Lesotho, the family confirmed in a statement. Tsola has been in the music industry for more than 4 decades and has entertained audiences on international stages. He became a household name with his iconic 1994 debut album, The Village Pope. He remains one of the most prominent jazz musicians in the country. Tsola has collaborated with artists such as Casper Nyovest, Jub Jub, Rebecca Malope, and Joyous Celebration. Despite being a permanent resident of South Africa, he maintained close ties with his home country. May he rest in peace. Zimbabwe NGOs sue government over alleged planned export of elephants to China. A Zimbabwean environmental group is suing the government over plans to export elephants to China. The group advocates for Earth, accuses China of subjecting elephants to unhealthy conditions. In an application to Zimbabwe's High Court, the rights group is seeking to prevent the Zimbabwe Parks and Wildlife Management Authority from going through with the export. Lenin Tinashe Chisaira, who heads Advocates for Earth, says the group just wants authorities to comply with the existing laws and that African wildlife should not be exported to destinations that are not appropriate for those species, that are not in natural or historic range. Zimbabwe's elephant population has grown in recent years, climbing to more than 100,000. Some farmers have complained that the elephants are destroying their crops and grazing lands. However, the Zimbabwe Wildlife Authority denies it's in the process of exporting elephants to China. Kenya. 93 Kenyans have died in the Middle East in 3 years. Some 93 Kenyans have died in the Middle East in the past 3 years, a minister has said. Labour Cabinet Secretary Simon Chelugi told MPs that the ministry is unable to provide a detailed background on the deaths of the Kenyans, which occurred mostly in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. The CS had appeared before the Labour Committee to discuss the alarming and sudden deaths of Kenyans in the Middle East. He said that since January 2019, the ministry facilitated the employment of over 87,000 Kenyans in the Gulf region. A majority of the migrant workers are in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and Bahrain. Within the same period, the ministry has received reports of 93 deaths of Kenyan migrant workers in the Gulf region, stating the cases should be investigated further, despite the initial and recorded cause of death given by the Gulf states. The Middle East is said to be notorious for the mistreatment of African migrant workers who often accuse the employers of slavish treatment. Congo Kinshasa, fiber to put DRC at the center of Africa connectivity. Liquid Intelligent Technologies and Facebook plans to build a metro fiber network in the Democratic Republic of Congo to connect East and West Africa by land. Though they are yet to reveal when the construction of the network will commence, the two partners are hoping to connect more than 30 million people to the internet once the 2,000-kilometer network is complete. The network will create a digital corridor from the Atlantic Ocean through the Congo rainforest to East Africa and onto the Indian Ocean. Liquid Technologies has been working on the digital corridor for more than 2 years now, which now reaches the central DRC. The corridor will connect DRC to its neighboring countries, including Angola, Congo, Brazzaville, Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, and Zambia. The new build will stretch from central DRC to the eastern border in Rwanda. DRC is the last frontier in broadband connectivity between East, Central, and West African regions. Africa-wide, Amnesty slams Libya, Europe over horrific abuse of migrants. Amnesty International has condemned the horrific violations being committed against migrants returned to Libya with the cooperation of European states after trying to cross the Mediterranean. The rights group said on Thursday that the new evidence had emerged of harrowing violations, including sexual violence against men, women, and even children, intercepted at sea and forcibly returned to detention centers in the North African country. At the end of 2020, Libya's Directorate and Combating Illegal Migration had legitimized abuses by taking over 2 detention centers run by armed groups, from where hundreds of refugees and migrants had forcibly disappeared. Pope Francis and the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres have called for the closure of these facilities. East Africa. EA Court strikes out suit against Uganda over El Victoria flooding. The East African Court of Justice has struck out a case in which 5 Kenyans sued the Ugandan government for not managing the outflows of water from Lake Victoria, which resulted in flooding. The floods displaced people in countries on the lake basin and damaged tons of property. The 5 had sued the government of Uganda, East African Community's Secretary General, and the Lake Victoria Basin Commission. The case was first filed in May 2020 by the 5 lawyers who argued that Uganda is greatly impacting the lake by releasing more water than is allowed by a legal agreement between Kampala and Egypt. The 5 Kenyans said the Ugandan government has consistently failed to control floods around the shores of Lake Victoria, resulting in the displacement of people and damage to their property. Uganda's breach has caused flooding that has damaged property and displaced more than 50,000 humans around the lake. Nigeria. Burna Boy, Davido, Femi Kuti, others to feature as Global Citizen holds their concert. International advocacy organization Global Citizen has announced Global Citizen Live, a 24-hour live broadcast with events and performances filmed across 6 continents to unite the world to defend the planet and defeat poverty. With performances and live events in Africa, Asia, Australia, Europe, North and South America, Global Citizen Live will air on ABC, ABC News Live, BBC, FX, iHeartRadio, Hulu, YouTube, Twitter, and more on Saturday, September the 25th of 2021. Global Citizen Live is a part of an ongoing effort to defend the planet and defeat poverty, powered by citizens around the world who are taking action together with governments, corporations, and philanthropists to make a real change. Thank you so much for watching. Visit our YouTube channel, Tuna Cheki, to watch our weekly news reports, and our website at tunacheki.tv for all the latest news updates. You can directly support this new series by becoming our YouTube member or becoming a patron. And remember that Africa is watching. And please feel free to leave your suggestions, news tips, or topics about Africa that you'd like us to explore.